Hi everyone, I'm Maggie and I have been a certified and licensed speech language pathologist for the past 15 years, and today I'm here to talk about a difficult question that I have been asked a lot in my profession as a speech language pathologist, and it's that a child gets the autism diagnosis from the doctor, and what do I do now? And it's really hard. I've been at those meetings. I'm a parent myself. It is a very emotional and difficult word to hear. And we're going to talk about some things you can do today to help you process and to help you get through and move past the diagnosis to really help your child and yourself thrive. So, you may have had thoughts of autism. You may have heard that word before. Your child may have been doing some more stereotypical behaviors like lining things up or flapping. But when you actually see the word in writing or hear the word, it really is like a gut punch. I have talked to lots of parents and asked for their help in making this video, and it's just really hard to hear it. Whether you know it or not, you need to take time to process it. There is a wonderful poem called Welcome to Holland by Emily Pearl Kingsley. I'll link it down below. And she describes it really well of you prepare for this baby, you're ready for this baby, and then you don't get necessarily the baby that you were envisioning in your head. So she relates that to going on a trip, and she thinks she's going to Italy, and then she ends up in Holland, and she has to learn a new language and learn new places and find out all the stuff there is to know about Holland when she was preparing for Italy. And basically the whole point of the poem is to say that if she can forget about Italy and really focus on the beauty in Holland, she could really enjoy being there. But if she gets stuck always thinking about Italy, she's never going to get to enjoy Holland. So I highly suggest you check out that poem. It really has meant a lot to me in my career, and also it's really helped me with some parents that I've worked through the diagnosis with and the next steps, and it really kind of puts things into a broader perspective for them. So maybe it can help you too. So the first thing I want you to do is do not blame yourself. You are going to give yourself time for this to sink in. Autism is nothing that you necessarily did. It is a brain difference. Let go of the stigma. I know it's easy for me to say, all of these things are easy for me to say, but this is what helps parents get through it the most, or at least the ones that I've worked with. And get rid of the stigma. There is a huge movement out there for neurodiversity and looking at it as a brain difference, and that there's nothing wrong with autistic individuals. Their brain just processes information and language differently, and we as a society need to do better to accommodate our environments and make them more accessible for everybody involved. There is also a huge shift in switching language to person with autism to autistic person. Autistic adults really say that their autism is part of them. They don't want it to be separate. So they want to be called autistic, and they're not ashamed of it. It's just how their brain works. I have red hair. I was called a redhead my whole life. That doesn't change who I am. It's just part of me. So it's really, I want you to think about all the things you know about autism or the scary things you've heard and forget them. Allow the diagnosis to sink in. That child that you walked into the clinic with before you got the diagnosis is the same child you're going to walk out with the diagnosis. Your child did not change. What changed now is you can get the supports and the help that you may need to help your child thrive in a neurotypical society. So, second thing I want you to do is start a journal. Your brain is going to be running, and there are so many questions going through your head, and you're not going to remember them all. You're going to get frustrated. It's so emotional and overwhelming. So start a journal. It doesn't have to be a Dear Diary. It can just be a list of questions that you want answered that you can give to a professional like myself or another parent and say, hey, what have you heard about this? What do you know about this? Because there's so much that comes along with autism. The words like ABA, speech, diet, education, there's government programs. It varies from state to state. So one person might say they get something and another state doesn't offer that. So you really want to have a central location where you can write down questions or feelings you're having that you can go back. pretty much I've been told by parents, everything that is said after the doctor says the word autism goes out of their brains because they're just processing it. So now as you're soaking it in, you're going to want to write everything down to be able to come back to when you've had even more time. Because in a week and then in a month and in a year, you're going to feel very differently than you do the day you get the diagnosis. The third thing I really want to encourage you to do is take care of yourself. A lot of the times as moms, we give everything to our children, and now your child probably might need even a little more support than the average mom out there. And it's easy to get lost in, I need to do this, I need to take them to this therapy, I need to get this diagnosis, I need to get this support, and it's exhausting. Parenting in itself is an exhausting thing. Parenting a child with different needs is even more exhausting. So you're going to want to take care of yourself and really try to find a village. So your spouse, your family, friends, and really check in with them and let them help you. Sometimes it's hard to let go of the help because you think you're the only one that knows your child, can help your child, but let people in. Let people help if they're offering, and hopefully you have somebody out there who is offering for you. Number 4 is you're going to try to figure out what is your number one issue. When you get the diagnosis, you might be worried about potty training or communication or sensory needs, and trying to solve everything at once isn't necessarily the best way to do it, because then you're going to get frustrated and overwhelmed. You won't be able to figure out what's working from what's not working. It's kind of like in that Peanuts episode where Charlie Brown goes out and strikes out and comes back to the dugout and says, "That's it, I'm never going to be a Major League Baseball player." And Lucy has to tell him, "Hey, how about instead of worrying about that, you worry about getting up to the mound and not falling this time. And let's take it one step at a time." So even something that might seem minuscule to someone else might be a really big deal to you, and that's okay. But that's what you're going to want to focus on and try to get help with first, because if it's important to you and you can see progress, you're going to feel more encouraged and be likely to take the next steps versus just kind of throwing in the towel and having a really negative attitude about that, which is allowed. You're allowed to have all your feelings, but you have to try to work through them in order to be able to help your child best. Because if you're not in a good place, you can't help your child get to a better place. So you're going to figure out what's your number one issue and how can you tackle it. You're going to look for connections. There are so many podcasts out there. There's so many parenting groups out there. There's Facebook groups. There's so many things out there to support the autistic community. You're going to find what works for you. What you think is really important, such as a really hot topic right now, is ABA therapy. That is great. I've seen parents who absolutely love ABA, and I've worked with parents who absolutely hate it. So you're going to find your people and what works for you. So be careful if you go onto a Facebook group or you go somewhere and it's a lot of negativity and it's a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily mesh with. Get out of that group. You don't need that. What you need is what's going to work best for you and your family. And the most important thing is to make sure you are okay. Make sure your spouse is okay. Make sure if there's siblings in the house that they're doing okay. And if you're not, ask for help. There are so many people that want to help you and that want the best for your child. So I know it's been a hard day whenever you watch this, however long ago you got the diagnosis. I hope this is just a reminder to really, that diagnosis doesn't change your child. You still love your child with everything, and you always will. Now, focus on getting the support and the help that you and your child and your family need to be able to thrive. I hope this really helps. If you have any specific comments, please leave them in the comments below, and I will try my best to answer them. You got this. One more thing. If you want ways to help connect with your autistic child today, check out the playlist on my station. It has all things play, sensory, language, and behavior that might give you some tips and tricks and more understanding of what your child's going through. You got this.